that they expect our president to concentrate fully on his role.
Undertaking this role in a private capacity does not mean that the president or the minister is somehow doing some ECA, some extracurricular activity.
So why is it so pressing to rush through these constitution amendments now?
From Singapore's perspective, there is value to have the president represented on these international bodies. It enables us to be plugged into global conversations and to understand and help shape the thinking that takes place in these important and influential international bodies. But for this to happen, the president must be able to function credibly in these international bodies by lending his expertise to advance the agenda on broader issues of concern to these organizations. Cabinet considered this carefully, and we concluded that President should be allowed to do so, to contribute in these international appointments in his independent and private capacity, as this is beneficial for Singapore. And that's why constitutional amendments are needed to enable the president to take on roles where he acts independently in his private capacity. One, the framework would only apply to appointments in international organizations. It would not apply in the domestic context. Two, any international appointment for the president to act in his private capacity must be justified by the national interest. And three, at the same time, the president should have a say in deciding whether to take on such appointments. He should be able to decline such appointments if, for example, he considers them to be incompatible with his constitutional functions. And any appointment must be on the public record in the interest of transparency and accountability.
When this bill was introduced, many Singaporeans I spoke to shared with me and shared with my party, my MPs from Workers' Party, that they expect our president to concentrate fully on his role as president, and they hope our president will not be distracted by the roles he is holding in his private capacity. The time spent on serving foreign and international organizations, no matter how fruitful they can be for our president, and even for Singapore, equates to time not spent on his presidential responsibilities, including the roles he had campaigned on.
Why is it so pressing to rush through these constitution amendments now and create this framework for the president and cabinet ministers to take up international appointments? The constitutional amendments that we are debating today were brought to this House for first reading less than 3 weeks ago. And Parliament has been recalled today specifically to approve this fait accompli. Parliament is also being asked to backdate these proposed constitutional amendments to 14 September 2023, the date of President Tharman's inauguration, through Clause 1, 2 of this bill. The retrospective amendment of any law should not be taken lightly.
We must more closely examine how these private roles, separate from official duties, genuinely advance Singapore's national interests. How will the government ensure that the president, when acting in his private capacity, follows the cabinet's advice about what to say or do in his role, since many of these organizations hold their meetings behind closed doors in foreign countries?
Most of us would know President Tharman as a man of his own thinking and deep integrity to his values. So I don't agree with the positions taken by my honourable fellow member, Mr. Gerald Giam. Mr. Dennis Tan goes on to talk about how no other head of state acts like this. and there's only 24 hours a day. I think members of this House would know that former SM Tharman, now President Tharman, packs a lot in 24 hours of his day. And I don't see there to be binary duties.
Undertaking this role in a private capacity does not mean that the president or the minister is somehow doing some ECA, some extracurricular activity. The presidential is not a president for domestic or international. It is a president serving both domestic and international interest. A key role of the president is Singapore's top diplomat. International dimensions are part and parcel of the president's role and how he contributes to Singapore. So this is not a trade-off as though doing this is outside of his presidential duties. They are integral to his presidential duties. There is no legal impediment for the Prime Minister to so authorize ministers to act in their private capacity, subject to safeguards and principles which I've just described. Now, then you say, why can't you do it for the President? And as I have explained, the Prime Minister cannot authorize the President to do likewise. The AGC, as advises, is an area that the Constitution does not clearly provide for. And that's why we debated, we thought about it. One option, as I described just now, was for us to, rather than authorize the President to act in his private capacity, to allow the President to serve in his official capacity, but with some latitude to express his private views. And AGC said that it's not clear, expressly prohibited, but it is not ideal. That was what I tried to explain in my speech. Not ideal. It leads us into new, gray, ambiguous areas because no one will know whether the President is serving, but what he says is reflecting his personal views or the Singapore government views, official views, what is it? And we prefer not to operate like that in such an ambiguous manner. We prefer to be upfront, we prefer to be transparent, and we prefer to do this in a principled manner with a clear governing framework, hence the amendments before this House.